Oh yes, we are here and we are ready. The heroes of track feedback is in the room. Hello, Paul Nolan here from MYT, and we have got an amazing track feedback session here for you today, and we've got an amazing special guest. As we build it, it's Funk Devoid versus Nolan 2 Electric Boogaloo, because the first part was done over on Funk Devoid's amazing Twitch stream, and here he is, Mr. Lars Sandberg himself. How you doing, buddy?
I'm all right, kid. I'm fucking great. Thank you very much. Great to see you again. And I'm sorry about the last time when I was sick with that, whatever it was, COVID version of COVID I had, but I was out for like 2-3 days. Glad to be here and supporting your great channel. So yeah.
Likewise,
looking forward
mate.
to hearing the tracks, my man.
Indeed. Unfortunately, we didn't have any vintage CRT monitors or laptops to put you in. Because
it was funny when we started the stream with that. I don't know why my head was like completely transparent, and it was showing some weird photo. Too many Hollywood CGI effects with my stream, you know.
Oh, I thought that was just an insight into your internal monologue, to be honest with you. I was like, I'm going to peer inside of his brain here, and it's quite empty, actually. I was quite surprised. It's like a minimalistic apartment.
Big surprise, but now we just got the red curtains, which I like. Stick with the classics.
Yeah. What you can't see, everyone, is that on the other side, is that silently, as somebody who's running the stream, we've actually got Joe Rogan over on Funk Devoid's side for things, actually running things. So it's just fucking brilliant. So how this works is we've got 10 tracks to listen to, and we've got 5 from our MYT community who really want to, get some feedback from yourself. And on top of that, we got 5 from people who are outside. So obviously we've got the link on the website on transition.studio. That basically means you can put your tracks in for each one, every month, basically. So every month we've got a different guest. And back in January, we had Guy Barone, got your good self. We've got people like Subandrio coming in the near future, people like Josh Butler. So, keep it locked to ADSR, Magnetic Magazine, our lovely partners in this stream, and also on MYT socials to find out who's going to be coming on next. So these will happen, and they will happen at the last Thursday of every month around this time, around 7 o'clock UK time. So put those in your diaries for next time. And just to answer some of the comments as well, I'm just seeing coming through already. If your track was selected, I sent you an email within the last couple of hours, just as a confirmation, so to make sure that you can actually see it. And of course, if you're watching us on YouTube, you can watch this back anytime you want. Again, this will also be getting broadcast on MYT and my my Facebook pages, and also we're live on ADSR, and we're also live on Magnetic Magazine. So absolutely fantastic stuff. So we've got some great tracks to go through, and we're going to start, in fact, with this lovely young man, Deit Tab. He's one of our really, really high-level MYT producers, and this is one that I really wanted to play you, Lars, because I think it might be right up your Strasse, as we say.
Strasse, let's have a listen then.
All right, then, there we go. Here we go. Let me just make sure everything's working properly. First of all, the wonders of live television.
Logic Pro.
I know, mate, yeah.
The original Jedi.
And we're in. think in the northern parts of the United Kingdom, my friend, we normally call that proper.
That was absolutely amazing.
Really?
For me, that was like really, reminded me of like early Code Red, Thomas Chrome kind of groovy, nice kind of
Yeah.
sub kind of growly. I mean, production ticking all the right boxes for me. That's the kind of stuff the techno I love to play. And you were right. I actually adore this. I had a couple of, I had the one major thing. I think that the string pad's great.
Mm.
I think it might sound a bit better darker. It just sounds a little bit too higher up, maybe an octave down, or make some kind of lower growly pad string thing a little bit something distressed, just to go with that vibe. But I love the claps, call and response with the main hook. I mean, I'm just clutching at straws. There's not a bad thing I can say about this. So that's a strong 9 out of 10 for me for this one.
Oh, amazing, mate, amazing. I was going to say 1, 2, 3, or 5, but then we're on the wrong show, aren't we? So
yeah. I'll give it we'll do it out of 10.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a 9 out of 10 for me. That's a 9 out of 10
on the funk scale.
Yeah. Well, you give me the technical analysis now. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is fantastic. And I actually I mean, disclaimer, I've heard this before in one of our members only feedback sessions, and as soon as I heard it, I was like, we need to get this to Lars, because I think this might be, again, like I said, right up his Strasser. And it really reminded me of remember those old Shakabuku vinyls and Kari Lekabush, people like that.
It's that Swedish techno vibe, but the early Swedish techno,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think it's absolutely fantastic. And Danny's been someone that's been sort of gestating for a while. And what he's done is just swapped his production rig. He's gone more hardware based, in terms of his sequencing and stuff. And that has just really liberated him. And you probably know this in your own production career. When you make a tweak to your workflow, or you add something new, or you just sort of refine how you work a little bit, you just get that quantum leap forward. And that's what's happened with Danny's stuff, because it's just night and day comparison compared to where he was even sort of 3 or so months ago. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, in terms of
congratulations, Danny. I mean, absolutely amazing. Yeah, if it's taking you to get some gear to get to this level or whatever, it's always good to have a few new toys and be inspired, having new things to play with.
No, 100%.
Yeah. I mean, as far as this track, I mean, I'd love to hear some other stuff another time.
No, we've got it. Oh, we've got it. Don't worry, we've got a lot.
Fantastic.
Yeah, from everyone.
Full support on that. Full support.
Absolutely.
Great start to the show.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Absolutely. And in terms of the technicals, I mean, for me, it's just about the mix down for me, and a couple of little things. Just making sure the bass is in mono, which is one of my mantras, as you can see here on the metric AB.
Yeah.
It was a little bit kind of skittish. I go as far as 300 most of the time on mono and the low end. That's something that, believe it or not, I picked up from Calvin Harris, where good Scots.
Oh, my old friend.
Good Scots guy. Yeah, was he packing your bags in Lidl in Arbroath? Was that you back in the day? Yeah. And say what you like about Calvin. He's a fantastic producer in his own right. He knows his onions. And that's something I picked up from him. Yeah, technically speaking. So again, around that sort of 250 area, I'd just completely mono that, to be honest with you. And then with this type of techno, sometimes it can be a little bit easy for the extremes of the low end and the high end to get a little bit out of control, especially in the build. Sometimes the builds with the noise and the high end sort of opening up, sometimes it can get a little bit harsh and a bit abrasive in the club. So you've got to bear that in mind in terms of the mix down as well, which I think Danny's about to get to this stage. So it's just keeping things in balance. And I always say, when tracks are this kind of level, it is just a good mix down and a good master away from being something very, very special indeed. And it's just about not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. In that attempt of trying to mix it to within an inch of its life, sometimes you lose the vibe. And it's about retaining that vibe, but making sure that it's I always think with high end and high mids and stuff, it's you it's either you're inviting people onto the dance floor when there's just the right amount of like high mids and highs, but if there's too much, it's kind of oppressive, you know, when like you go to a club
Yeah, I've
and
been
like
guilty of that
yeah,
before for a long time, but I've always had to dial it back, and including my hi-hats, I've always had way too much going on. Also, it's kind of genre specific depending on what kind of track it is, but
yeah, it's
for
very
this kind of
true.
like main room, techno, big room, you've really got to push them down
Oh yeah.
so you get the bottom end pushing through. But yeah, I mean, I
Mm.
didn't really hear. I was thinking of like, you know, if I could advise any kind of gain staging on that, but it seemed to be pretty good. I thought the clap might have been a little bit quiet in first, but it seemed to kind of
Yeah.
find its level when it
Yeah.
came in with the kick.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and sometimes there's still a little bit of automation, you know, a bit of gain, like fade riding,
yeah,
just to make sure it's at the right level. Because sometimes there's like when you do a mix down like that, you put a clap in at like the peak of the track where there's peak energy and there's a lot of stuff going on. You rewind back
yeah,
to the intro, and it's like all of a sudden the clap's too loud. So I always advise like, you know, putting a gain plug-in on and like doing a little bit of manual fader ride and
manual.
and
Right.
that actually brings the track to life a little bit, and everything starts breathing and starts like, you know, talking
Sure.
to each other, and it becomes more of a communication and the call and response, and the whole track is like kind of morphing and constantly changing shape and constantly keeping you on your toes. Like that's what I love in any that's applicable to any genre, not just techno, you know.
One thing about this track, I did like the way the hook kind of remained constant, even though it was definitely moving, but it wasn't like completely filtered down wherever it was. Like it was like a constant thread through the track, and that really, for me, kept the intensity all the way through it. And all the other sounds were doing the kind of like movement. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, it's got that solid foundation, basically.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely,
And it's not an
absolutely.
obvious sound. I like when you use unconventional hooks like that. It's
Mm,
kind of like, you know, it
yeah.
makes me sit up and take notice.
Yeah,
So
and it's like it's the type of hook that you would normally hear in something like a prog record. Do you know what I mean? But
is it?
like, yeah, sometimes yeah, in the darker stuff you kind of
Yeah,
get. Yeah, I'm talking like more that, you know, John Digweed stuff, which is
yeah,
on
yeah.
that doorstep between prog and techno. Like I don't necessarily a lot of the time even consider John to be a prog DJ these days, because he does play a lot of
It's
like
quite techy, isn't it? I mean, it's quite
darker
dark and
techie
some,
stuff.
yeah, he's a great DJ, one of the best.
Oh
He's
my
probably one
god.
of the top five in the world, I think,
Oh
for
my
me.
god! Oh my god! I mean, I saw him last year here, just after I moved. I went to the Metropolitano in Rosario, and it was just one of the
Wow.
best shows I've ever heard. Man, he played like what 6 hours, and
I'm jealous of your club scene over there, mate.
well, mate, yeah, it's a bit of a crazy one. I mean, yeah, this weekend's a bit quiet, but there's like a big holiday weekend here next week. So like Sasha and Digweed are here on Tuesday. And they're probably going to play in
Yeesh.
front of about 12,000 people. And then
Oh,
across
boy.
town, Solomon's going to play a sold out show. There's probably going to be about 10,000 people there as well. As I
Right.
said to you, mate, it's just on like
Lucky you.
Donkey Kong, like 24/7. So,
We've got a great, like Barcelona, but it's only once a year, fucking sonar. That's about it.
yeah,
And we've
yeah.
got lots of things like brunch and all that on the reg in the
Mm.
summer. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
you know
true,
me,
yeah.
I'm Mr. Underground, so it doesn't really apply to my vibe at all.
Yeah.
Because I'm with in my little sanctuary with 100 people. So
Yeah. Well, mate,
yeah,
it's
the cult.
mate, absolutely, mate, absolutely. I'm all
We've
about
got to get you to
cults.
play. Actually, you should come and play.
Yeah,
We've
yeah.
talked about this.
But talking about it, absolutely. So yeah, and you're obviously relocating to Asia in May, aren't
Well,
you?
I'm going for a few months, and then I'll
Yeah.
be back
Yeah.
September. But I'm keeping my
Ah,
residency.
okay, interesting. So, you know, maybe not for May
We'll
because
talk about that over the stream. We'll talk about that
yeah, of
off
course, yeah,
stream.
yeah. But September, I mean, again, like you know, obviously, I love you, and I love Paul, and you know, we've been talking about it for a while. So yeah, we've got to get it done, mate. Got to get it done.
All right, we can pencil in for September if you want.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, so
All right, let's go.
let's go.
What's next?
Altered Mind, SOS and Dowo. This
Whoa.
will be, I think, there's another interesting little bit of techno for you. And this is coming from outside of, well, you mentioned your cult, but your 100 people, that comes outside of my cult, which is MYT.
Right.
So, you know,
Listen,
cult,
can you explain one thing with this AB? I've
yes.
used this on the retreat. What is the top waveform and what's the bottom one? Have you done extra
So
stuff?
the top one is just an overview, and you can kind of zoom in.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Of
exactly.
their WAV.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
okay.
Yeah, and then say for example, you know, if you're like I am here, I've got another track here. Like if you want to
Yeah.
actually, you can actually layer the frequency responses, so you can actually
Okay.
see both, and then you know sort of do
Okay.
matching EQs and stuff like that, matching dynamic range, all of that. So yeah, as I said, that's more of like a zoomed out overview of the whole thing, and then you can kind of get a bit granular, and you can set up like
Just to
start
check the
points,
actual
loop
waveform. Okay,
points.
cool.
Yeah, it's really handy for that. Really handy. Cool.
Nice.
Right, so let's give this a rip then. Here we go.
Let's go.
feel bad.
I'm writing a lot of stuff here.
Yeah, I feel bad turning it off.
It's banging. What did you think of that then? Well, you know it already. Probably listened to it. Yeah, I mean.
No, I haven't listened to that. I want your thoughts first, my friend. Go on.
A few things. Okay, the vocal stab you use in the beginning, it's out of key. Also, it's a little bit too infrequent in its phrasing. It kind of throws you out of the track when it comes in twice and it disappears. I would definitely try changing it, moving it down 2 or 3 semitones, because it's a little bit clangy for me key wise. Also, that main kind of like Red 2 style hook. It's a little bit anemic. It needs a little bit more beef. The dynamics
low end,
there.
low end for me.
Yeah, I would definitely try layering in that with another. Why not try another kind of similar sounding stab to give it a bit more woomph? I'm always a big fan of transposing sounds, especially stabs. Also, that homeboy hippie funky dread. Woo, 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 woo. It's a little bit hackneyed, that kind of sound. I'd maybe try something else, or maybe another kind of similar kind of vocal stab. I love the Your Mind thing. Your Mind, that works really well. Production was sounding great. The ride was all kind of behaving itself. The clap was fine. It was kind of disappearing into the groove a little bit, though. I'm not sure if it was sitting well, but those are the notes I was taking. What did you take from this?
Yeah, definitely agree with you on that one, mate. From the technical standpoint, I actually think you're right. Like, it's really, really well produced. It's very clean. It's clearly not mastered, so you can basically go another leg in terms of loudness, because it's coming through here at about minus 12.3 LUFS, and you can go all the way up to 8. Like 8 is always the standard that I set. Yeah, well,
Oh, I know. I'm like between 8 and 13. It's all about the luffs.
Yeah, it's all about the luffs. It's all about the luffs. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I try and go like I skew on the sort of the louder side, but there's definitely a way in mastering to balance loudness with dynamics. And it's just being clever with it, do you know what I mean? So, I definitely think there's another leg higher sort of loudness-wise you can go to. I definitely agree with you on the stab. It felt like it was sort of floating across the top of the track rather than being like fully...
It needs to be slamming in.
Yeah, it needs to be like, you need that lower level in order to like glue in. Do you know what I mean? To like actually like really, really glue it to the rest of the track. So that's definitely needed. I mean, stylistically, definitely agree with you on like sort of the more sort of dated elements of it. And the clap definitely needs a bit of compression just to make it to sit again. And like actually what we were talking before with like, maybe a little bit of gain riding and stuff like that as well, in order to, get it at the right point, at the right moment in the track when things are intense. Definitely for sure. And again, like other little sorts of details technically that, the guy, Dennis, he might not have gotten quite to yet, which is, bass monoing. Again, you're going to hear this as a mantra from me because, again, despite what a lot of people might like to say these days, mono compatibility is still very, very important, especially in club systems. So everyone should be monoing their basses to be absolutely sure. And, I actually like the first pass of a mixdown is a check for mono compatibility a lot of the time. So again, this is another thing you might see me do through the session, is that I've got the ability to listen to the mono and the stereo sections separately, like a mid-side type thing. Because again, you don't want you want some information in the sides, of course, because you need to have a mix that hits a sweet spot where it performs well in as many different environments as possible. There's no such thing as a perfect mix for absolutely everything, because different playback environments are going to have different needs. But my optimum that I always point people to is that it needs to be mono with nice extras to give it a bit of depth, basically. So when you play it in a club on a mono sound system, and of course not all systems are mono, but still the vast majority of them are, because they're the ones that still, perform the most consistently, especially when you get to the bigger sound systems in bigger clubs and festivals and stuff. They have to cover a long, a big distance and big coverage areas for big crowds. So they still have to be mono, do you know what I mean? So you have to make sure the mono compatibility is on point. But again, all the nice, reverb textures and the width and the depth that you get from that, and the top end of pads and all the other nice little floaty
Yeah.
things. They're there for like
candy
listening at
vibes.
home, ear candy, for home listening or listening in the car or on SoundCloud or on Mixcloud or whatever, So it's really, really important stuff. So I actually think this is like a really good example of why we work so well together, mate, because you've just brought that total vibe of like production and what's cool and what works and stuff, and I've just brought the technicals. So I think there's like combined feedback's actually really strong there.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of mono, like AB monoing. I've got a utility, and I switched to the dark side. I went to Logic, to Ableton. I just think it's much. I mean, I love it. I mean, I have a utility on every channel, and constantly ABing my signal in every channel, and especially the master as well.
Yeah, exactly.
I get lost in the space sometimes, and I know how much I love using like multiple bass lines and coming up with a big stereo kind of field, but you got to really dial it back.
Oh, you do, yeah. There's limits you've got to stick to so you can actually get performance no matter what. And there's nothing worse. Like I remember some of the, when I was really like learning the ropes, going into clubs and playing some of my own tracks, and I'm like, where the fuck's me low end gone? Like, because it's there's like wide stereo basses, and then the wider it gets, the more they phase, and the more they phase, the more they cancel each other out, and then things just sound really thin, and then you lose the crowd playing one of your own records, and there's just nothing worse. Do you know what I mean?
A whole stream about phase modulation and phase, phasing in different.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, we do regularly. We're about to we're going to do a really hardcore mastering session with a really, really good friend of mine who is the mix engineer and mastering engineer for the likes of Camel Fat, and he's worked with everybody from Camel Fat to Bob Dylan through to like Lewis Capaldi. All of the like one of the top like mixed and mastered engineers like in the world, and he's a Liverpool-based guy called Mike Cave. So we're getting really nerdy with like intersample peaks and phase rotations and all sorts of stuff over on the MYT stuff. So we've actually got a full mastering course because I do a lot of mastering myself. So
good.
Yeah, so we go full in on that. So anybody needs any help with that, where we're at. So yeah, excellent.
Sweet.
Next. This is one I've pulled because I want you to hear it from the community. And
okay, nice.
Yeah, this I think again might be another one that might be just up your street a little bit, even though it's not. Let's have a listen. Even though it's not techno. So here we go. Let's go.
is the process of entering into a receptive state and letting the goodness of the universe fill you. It is dipping your toe into a pool of infinite stillness. Meditation is the process of entering into a receptive state and letting the goodness of the universe fill you. It is dipping your toe into a pool of infinite stillness. Meditation is the process of entering into a receptive state and letting the goodness of the universe fill you. It is dipping your toe into a pool of infinite stillness. Meditation. 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 Meditation is the process of entering into a receptive state.
So the comments have just gone absolutely mental.
Everyone's loving that. I can see the comments there.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I mean, yeah, I'll be honest. Again, I heard this in one of our feedback sessions yesterday for the MYT crew, and my feedback initially was, "Are you taking the fucking piss?"
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, the groove, once you have a groove like that, everything else is gravy. Such a hard thing to do is to get that instant kind of like hooky groove.
Yeah,
And I'm a big
100%.
fan. I mean, it sounds like 120 BPM, which is my favorite BPM for this kind of house, whatever you got, deep stuff. I mean, it's just great, kind of spooky, a bit weird. I love that low pitched kick. It's just nice and wumpy. I love it. And also the unsettling pads, that was a great little thing. It was, this is the kind of ear candy I like to, to put in these kind of tracks as well. Something I would definitely play. My Strasse, indeed. Couple of points. So I think the kind of overly destroyed filtered conga loop thing was kind of cool. It just it got a little over processed in my opinion. It could have come through a bit more, cut through a bit better, because it was a great little percussive phrase, and it kind of got lost in the mix. Also, there's a little kind of like almost microtonic kind of half hat that comes in later on in the track. That needs to be, they need to kind of have a fatter, like closed hat, just to anchor the groove. I think for this amazing groove, it needs that half hat, that strong kind of like signifying half hat sound. And I just think that little microtonic kind of like, it was almost like a little shaker, kind of half shaker thing, didn't really work. Also, I don't know about the spoken word. I'm kind of on the fence about that in the middle. Because I was getting into that track, and then all this mad alien stuff came in. I mean, I don't know. I just felt, wow, I don't know if is it necessary? Am I just, I'm not getting the vibe? So I'm on the fence about that. I'm never a big fan of using these kind of spoken things during breakdowns. I'm all about the journey and, cutting people out and then bringing back in. But I'm not sure about that. But that might be just a case of like taste. Maybe dial back a little bit the white noise stuff, or the pink noise it was. It's cool, but there's other ways to do little rising stuff. It's always works. I guarantee, always still works. But I think I always like I try and stop myself from putting in such kind of like well used transitional kind of like sounds like white noise. But I mean, it was pink noise in the beginning, so I'll give you a few extra points for that. But yeah, I mean, yeah, these are just the notes off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But a great groove, a great track. Love the bass. Once again, kind of Massioplex vibe for me, kind of chugging. You know, this just got it for me. So yeah,
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like basically if Digweed doesn't sign this for Bedrock, then I'm signing it for our label, basically. You know what I mean? I said to George yesterday, like, you know, once you get this in the pocket, like, you need to get this to John, because I think this is something that John would absolutely play, because it's definitely in that darker element, like, and you know, I was really encouraged. I know what you mean about spoken word vocals, because I'm not exactly the biggest fan of it myself. However,
yeah,
I am actually a little bit more of a fan of it than you in this
that's what I said. It's
particular
a personal
case.
taste.
Yeah,
thing.
it's a subjective.
Taste thing, so
Yeah, it's
some
subjective.
subjective, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah,
What
exactly.
about the mix? I was a bit. Did you think it was a bit scorched after the breakdown? I don't know. It felt like there was some kind of compression going on there.
Yeah, it might have been, because one of the things that I encouraged George to do, because like the first time I heard this, it was the drop was a little bit, as I like to call it, polite.
Polite.
You know, it's like it doesn't the way I always explain it.
Inoffensive.
No. Actually, almost like friendly. Like, you know, it climbs very carefully out of the speakers and it approaches you in a very non-threatening way across the dance floor, and then it shakes you by the hand and says, "Hello, I'm the drop." Whereas what I want it to do is to basically come absolutely firing out the speakers at me, and I want it to headbutt me in between the eyes as hard as possible, and preferably I'd like it to draw blood.
Wow.
Like, it's that kind of drop, do you know what I mean? Like, I want my drops, especially in records like this, to be with threatening intent.
Teeth. They've got
with
to
teeth.
be they've got to have teeth on them.
Yeah. And there's a cracking story about that. So there's a cracking producer who's done a lot of stuff on Bedrock, and he's a former member of ours, called Four Candles, which is a fantastic artist name in and of its own right. Literally
Four candles. I like
four
it.
candles. Yeah, exactly. Not handles for forks. And he had a track called Devious, which John ended up signing for Bedrock, and Chris at Four Candles was a member at the time. And basically, it was a similar situation where it was like, yeah, this is really, really good, but the drop's a little bit polite, and it's kind of you're not nailing the landing, basically. You're not sticking the landing. So I encouraged them to go away, and, like, you know, I gave him a bit of feedback to, like, you know, come back with a bit more aggression. And he came back with a bit more aggression. And then we were both at Fabric when John played it, and it took the roof off.
Nice.
And actually, like, straight after that set, John signed that track for Bedrock, and then he put it on the last Live in London CD, which is the one that he did. It was like a live mix of what he did at Fabric.
I remember that mix, yeah.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. So, you know, that's an amazing thing of, like, you know, how the feedback that we give to people, like, how it results in success for people in their careers, which is why I love doing sessions like this, just to, you know, to see the growth in people. And
no, it's great when you sign tracks from the stream. It's great. I've done it many times. And, you know, giving other people a leg up. You know, I've lots of contacts over the last 30 years. So
yeah,
and there's lots of labels looking for tracks. They always find the good stuff. Always finds a home. So
it really does. So the reason why I mentioned it in this context is that it was similar here. And one of the tricks that I talk about doing is actually what you can do is take your drums and actually, say, for example, put a utility on, like a drum group, and then at the drop, do the little 3 dB trick, you know, where you knock the drums up by 3 dB so they really slam when they come back in. And then over the course of like 8 to 16 bars, it basically, like, it just, you just automate it back down. Do you know what I mean? You just kind of get it back
right
into
to the front of the mix, and then boom,
and then pull it back, like, because, you know, think about a DJ. Some DJs would do that. They probably just, like, you know, push the gain pot a little bit at the drop and then pull it back. It's kind of that type of situation. So it might be that it is, like, triggering a little bit of limiting, and it's kind of over compressing stuff. Probably. It's something that we've spoken about before, but that can be addressed with, like, good gain staging in the mix as well. Which this isn't even mixed yet. Like, this is
I'm a big fan of
straight out of production.
Pre-fade metering. Jesus, man. Pre-fade metering, which is great. You've got it in Logic as well, which is great. But it's like, I always make sure the signals because yeah, you got to be careful about it, otherwise you're going to like lose a lot of the fucking dynamic of your sound or your sample, whatever. So
Yeah, absolutely.
PFM for the win.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and good gain staging just across the board. So yeah, I mean, I think this is a fantastic record, and I think it's got incredible potential with a good mix down and a good master. And like you say, taking some of the tips, you were saying about there. It's really nearly there. And I actually really agree with you on that percussive part as well, because everything else is so electronic and so like twisted and alien. It'd be quite nice to have something a little bit more naturalistic in there, actually, based on your feedback, just to kind of, I love the juxtaposition, between acoustic instruments and super electronic, like that stark contrast. Like some of my favorite artists are masters of that, like Trent Moller. Trent Moller is so good at just putting together like incredibly natural, human, organic sounds against something that's so electronic and so synthetic and metallic. It's unbelievable, So
good stuff. Good stuff. We get signed for sure.
Oh, mate, that's on the way, mate. That is on the way. Okay, so we're gonna play the next track. This is an excellent Argentinian producer called Nicholas Van Orton, and the reason why I picked this
that name. How the hell do I know that name?
Yeah,
probably I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. So he's actually got a really good feedback stream himself that he does here for the RGs called Demo Dump, which he does on Twitch.
Demo Dump, nice.
Yeah. So, and it's it's a really, really good one. So basically, I'm going to go and do it on 30th of April. So again, you never know, mate. You might get a call off Nicholas as well to come and be a guest on it as well.
Why not?
Do you know what I mean?
Is it in Spanish?
Well, hopefully not, because after 1 year in Argentina, mi español is un poquito mismo.
It's probably better than Paul Lorraine's after being there for fucking 15 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Dos cervezas, por favor.
Oh, don't, mate.
El autobús. Yeah, terrible. Can I have a sausage, please?
Yeah, exactly. Donde esté el baño? Exactly.
Oh, man.
Yeah, unbelievable.
English people are bilingual. They speak two languages, English and English.
Yeah, well, I mean, apart from you and I, because you speak Scottish and English.
Scottish, man.
And me, my first language is Scouse. So
we had Harvey Mackay last week, didn't we? After you and
Harvey's said, Scottish. He needs subtitles.
I could only stand 20%. They could only understand 20% of the feedback, and it was some of the best feedback we've ever had, apart from you, obviously. But he's very technical as well.
Oh yeah, he's great. Yeah.
He's great. But because I'm Scottish, I understand everything. But I mean, some of my French friends are, what the fuck was he saying?
Yeah, you need
to add subtitles, whatever.
You should do. Yeah. Or some sort of interpreter, in the corner.
Thing. It'll probably come out like gobbledygook.
Exactly. Right, you probably have to reprogram it. You can put the voice in AI. You'd have to reprogram it back into English in order to make him sound like he's actually speaking something.
Does not compute. Scottish,
exactly.
Man, impossible.
Yeah, exactly.
Impenetrable accent. You've got a great accent. I love your accent.
Oh, thanks, mate.
Accent.
No, thanks, mate. Thanks. I mean, I've lived all over the world, so I've had to kind of soften it off just a little bit. Do you know what I mean? So I can be understood, because otherwise I have to say everything 3 times. Although, to be honest with you,
at least you're not Scottish. At least you're not Scottish.
Well, I think we're kindred spirits anyway. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. Here we go. some groove, that, isn't it?
Hey, I like that. That was great. You could probably shave off that last bit, though. I think it's a minute there. Yeah, probably tighten that arrangement a little bit at the end. I mean, it's nice. It was fading out perfectly there. Yeah, it's all about that bass line, ain't it?
It is, mate.
As soon as it starts, it's like whack.
Yeah.
It's like boom, and that's the main kind of like meat of the track for me. A good bass line from the get go. That's kind of like your hook, basically. So anything else is kind of like, it's going to be struggling to compete with that. The only bad thing is, I think there was a nice tom phrase thing, like a digga digga dig. That could have come in earlier.
Yeah.
I felt I just got a bit of a sluggish start in the arrangement. I was waiting for something a little bit more kind of like aggressive to come in. So that tom section would have worked way cooler, easy earlier.
Yeah.
Also, those little sub hooks and those like upper leads, a little bit anemic again. Maybe a bit more mid or a bit more gain, whatever. I don't know. They just seem to be lost in that kind of like area of the EQ where it's like, there's nothing happening. So it's just kind of like this little fizzy kind of frills coming through and in and out. So especially for these upper leads, they need to kind of really push through the mix a bit better. Yeah, and maybe I know the old classic kind of shelving the kick for a mini drop and all that. Everyone does that, and it's kind of cool. You could probably mix it up by just cutting straight to like maybe 2 or 4 bars of the bass line on its own and whacking the kick back in.
Yeah,
totally. That's all I got from that. Yeah, just a little bit of arrangement tricks here and there to break it up, and change it up a bit.
Yeah.
But overall, yeah, slamming groove, and yeah, good job on the bass line.
Yeah.
And the kick was perfect. So yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. So for me, I've got a few little tips on the arrangement myself.
Right.
And obviously some technicals as well. So this is where we entered the Patrice Baumel School of Minimalism, as I like to call it.
Nice.
But other Patrice, hello Patrice, if you ever watch this, is a very, very committed member of the church of one of everything and no more. And
one of everything. What does that mean?
Well, just basically, one kick, one hi-hat, he's so like unbelievably German and unbelievably like minimalistic in his whole thing, and even down to things like breakdowns. So I'm seeing here 2 breakdowns that actually, when you even look at the waveform, they look quite similar.
Yeah.
Right, and they're doing
breaking
similar.
The rules.
He's breaking the rules, yeah. This is nicht gut, right?
Nicht gut.
Yeah. So
breakdowns.
I love the fact that it was German in a Scouse accent. That was fantastic. So basically, what I would do, there's 2 things I would say to this in terms of the arrangement, because I think generally the arrangement's really cool, and I really do agree with you about switching it up with the little mini breaks and stuff. There's other things you can do there. Yeah. We'll get to that, right?
The old shelving kick thing is a bit, you're gonna just mix it up a little bit.
And there's little tricks that I like to play. So while we're on that subject, say for example on one of them, what I would do is, rather than say for example, I would have the kick all the way through, and then you could shelve it and all that. Yeah, you can do that. And then I actually quite like not taking out the last kick of the phrase. I like taking out the first kick. I like to take out the first kick of the next one.
Yeah, of course.
And it throws so many people. I remember I played one of my tracks that did this in the past on tour in Australia, and there was a really funny incident in Sydney. I was playing Sash at the Greenwood Hotel in Sydney.
I love Sash. Sash are great.
It's fantastic. It's an institution. Kerry and that, yeah. Big shout to Kerry. Yeah, I played there in 2018 and it was fantastic. And I played the track and one of the drops had like the first kick out, and somebody who was dancing front and centre expected the first kick. It didn't arrive and they literally fell over on the dance floor because it sold them the dummy that well. Do you know what I mean? So little things like that can keep people on the toes. I would actually take these 2 breakdowns and I would make them 1 breakdown. I would actually make it one more focused thing
and that would probably cut off some of the fat on the ends.
Exactly.
Some of the fat. You might not need to trim that end if you do that.
Exactly. And that brings me to the second point, which is this track is like what, 7, it says 7 minutes 51 with the silence, so it's probably about 7:45, something like that. There's a really incredible 6-minute 45 track that's fighting to get out of this nearly 8-minute track. So again, if
Get
you
the
cut
scissors
some of
out. Get the bloody scissors out, mate.
yeah, and it's great because you've got the palette, you've basically painted the painting, and now you can edit it, and now you can start really tightening it and everything else. Do you know what I mean? So that would be one thing I would do. I think through the track, the bass line's fantastic. It really reminds me. Remember Saints and Sinners pushing too hard?
Yeah.
It's got a vibe like that. It's like sort of disco-y,
vibe.
maraudery type vibe. I would have liked a little bit more filter automation.
Bingo. I was going to say that. I forgot to write that down.
Well, that's why me and you are good, because I'm,
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Well, I saw it inside your brain, didn't I? Before the beginning of the session, I saw it inside your head. So, like,
we're on the same page, bro. I mean, you're right. That whole bass line didn't really change until halfway through it. So, yeah,
exactly, yeah. And then as far as the mix down goes, I wanted a bit more, that real nice, shiny top end, that sort of like you'd call it the air in a track, that real sort of like, I call it like that sort of 12K, real shine on hi-hats and rides, and again, it's like that really, really shiny crystalline kind of area, frequency-wise, that gives everything a lot of definition. It's almost like kind of like the ASMR sort of range, do you know what I mean, where it sits on the ears really nicely. I'm a big fan in mixdown. I use a lot the Slate Digital stuff. Been a fan of theirs for years. I haven't mixed a track without a Slate Digital plugin in probably 13 years. Like, I've literally been using them since about 2012 when they came out with the first versions of their plugins, the virtual mix desk and all the emulations. And they've got an amazing little unit, little one knob thing called the Air EQ. And just when you're on your drum group or even on the master, just a little knock at 1.5, 2 dB, whole thing comes to life, and it's just like shiny, and the clarity comes through and everything else.
It's the enhance button.
Exactly, yeah. There's two things I like on plugins: an enhance button and a punish button.
Yeah. Destroy it or fucking make it sound lovely and shiny.
Decapitate or great care. That kind of thing.
Crystallize. I love crystallizer.
Oh yeah, all the sound toy stuff's phenomenal, isn't it? Absolutely, yeah. Decapitator's still for me the best distortion unit I've ever used. But yeah, so that's what I would say. I think slightly more. I mean, because it's fantastic, I just need slightly more focus. I think the final thing I would also say from a production standpoint is when it does drop, it kind of, and it's not a bad thing, it kind of goes back doing what it did before.
Yeah.
And I'm a big advocate because, me, old prog boy, old bean.
Old prog head.
Old prog head over here. Do you know what I mean? I love a bit of storytelling, me. I love a bit of standing on the side of the dance floor, stroking my chin, going, what's the narrative here? that kind of thing.
It's like Vegemite. You either love it or you hate it. That's exactly. With prog.
Exactly. So for me, it's like in that final section, I always like there to be like a denouement, like a destination, like a climax, if you will. And for me, it's like it was missing something like a high tension string or like a nice pad, just to kind of like bring the emotion,
Sure. That might have worked better than using a lot of those kind of fizzy leads that they were using in this.
Yeah, potentially, yeah.
Maybe some kind of thread, some kind of pad thread through that. I don't know. There's definitely a bit of work to be done there.
Oh, a bit of work to be done, but it's great. It's great. And you know what I love as well is like the reason why I included it is because, Nicholas is actually like espousing a very important value, which is he's somebody who has his own feedback stream, who has just come to us for feedback. So he's willing to, get feedback. He doesn't ask people to do something that he's not willing to do himself. And it's something that I do every now and then when I'm finishing a track. I take him into the MYT sessions and I get the MYT members to rip me apart. And it's like, well, I'm not above that. Do you know what I mean? Just because it's like my community and it's my product and I've done all these things and everything else, I'm not above getting feedback myself. So got to give Nicholas a lot of credit for that.
Nice one, Nicholas. Good job.
Good job, mate. Right.
Maybe I'll end up in your feedback stream one day. Let's see.
Well, let's see, mate. Let's see. Yeah. And big hello to Guy Barone, who is watching at the moment. He just sent me a message. So, of this parish. Very good. He's just finished a remix for our record label, which will be out in the next couple of months. Kid. So very, very happy. Right. So next, Cosmos Orchestra.
Hey, that's a nice name.
It's a good name, innit? He's one of our boys, and another one I think he's a superstar in the waiting. So here we go. So, dear boy, do you feel like you've been serenaded by the Orchestra of the Cosmos?
You know who this reminds me of? It reminds me of the guest I had last night. This is very Chimera-esque, this kind of stuff.
Very
it's like
interesting.
Identical, very, very similar, not dissimilar at all to its approach, sound choice, arrangement, like everything. It's just, this is the kind of techno I really, really like, the kind of like delicious arps, this kind of like hypnotic kind of phrase. It doesn't get boring because of the time signature it's using. I mean, for me, it was like, I love that sound, that kind of soft synthy kind of like sound. It's very, very gorgeous to listen to. Sounds like an old Novation or Korg, I don't know what it was, but beautifully simple. I mean, that's the thing with this. I would say, I don't have anything bad to say about this track. This is probably my favorite track of this evening so far. I mean, it's just, yeah, this is my vibe. This is beautifully put together. I mean, I'm trying to think. One thing I was thinking, just that kind of background, atmospheric kind of palette in the background. Maybe it's not needed, or maybe it could be turned down a bit. I'm even giving marks for this white noise, even though it's not really white noise. It's kind of like, it's like steam. I call them steam fills. They actually work better than these white noise risers, but I do like a bit of steam in the tracks.
I love a
steam
spritz. I love a little
steam
spritz.
spritz. You're like, psh. I don't mind that. A little kind of like, now and then. But
Says the man in the yellow hat.
Look at the ostentatious fucking breakdown, but it works. It's just
it
like,
does,
that was really well done, I mean, and I can see, I don't know, I can tell that was, I don't know if that was done live or that how it was arranged, but it doesn't come across as a kind of someone in a white coat and like, in a laboratory, like methodically putting it together. That had a very nice, vibe about it, of like a kind of live. I don't know if
really
that was
does.
done in a live arrangement mode in Ableton, but that's top marks for me. I'm impressed.
Oh yeah. He's a superstar in waiting, this guy. And what's amazing is that he's got a litany. Like every time we do a track feedback session, he's like, "Oh, here's this one from the vault from 2017 that I didn't quite finish, and it's like this, or better." Like, it's insane.
Wow.
Like, the stuff he's got strewn around. We've got two of them, to be honest with you. There's another guy we just did the latest release on the label called Dennis.
You should definitely curate this guy or girl, wherever.
Oh, we've already got 3 tracks signed for an EP. That's going to come out, I think, in like July. If he can finish them in time, that's just
a whole other thing.
Me playing teacher right there for a second. But no, he's amazing, mate. I mean, he's got so much like incredible stuff just like lying around that, like, ideas from 2018 and sketches and stuff. And we're always like encouraging him, like, no, you got to get it all finished. You got to get it all like in a vault, like, in a war chest of stuff that you've then got to go and get signed. And the other guy, Dennis Tech, is exactly the same. I mean, we managed to get him play from, Luke Solomon and DJ Harvey and stuff, because it was more on that Chicago jacking style.
Right.
And we managed to, fulfill a big ambition for Dennis, which was like to get him on the Classic Records podcast, which Luke played in, which was phenomenal, which is great. And then the follow-up was, oh, by the way, Luke, here's a SoundCloud playlist of another 50 things that he's made over the last 3 years that are all just as good as this, if not better. Happy listening, basically. So, it's like, it's just getting these guys to like get to the finish line on as many products as possible, as many tracks as possible, so they can go off and get them signed to the best labels they possibly can. And my advice is always shoot for the highest labels possible, because the worst thing that can happen is that they say no, and you shoot for the stars, you miss and you land on the moon.
That's the thing. You have like you can't really gauge what their taste is going to be like. Sometimes they might like a track that you think's rubbish, or that is quite one of the worst of the bunch, but that's the one they take.
That's quite literally no accounting for taste. And what I love about this as well, you were mentioning about the breakdown, this is classic, like, what we were talking about on your stream. This is classic, like, Derek Carter compatible breakdown, because it's still got a little bit of a kick in it.
Completely. But the key is it works. The thing is, I don't mind if a breakdown, but if you're not kind of like, oh, fucking, I want this finished. It's like
exactly.
You're locked into the journey. If you're locked into the journey, and that's it, I don't mind,
Yeah, you like that going, shots at 10 when you're dropping.
I don't think Derek would play this, so it's not really his vibe, is it?
Definitely
my kind of vibe.
definitely up his Strasse, but honest to God, mate, like just beautiful. Like, and he's got such Rafa's got the Raphael's name is Cosmos Orchestra. He's got such like there's a real beautiful like constraint about what he does. Like, it never goes too over the top.
Works.
That name really does. It's absolutely beautiful. So we're really excited, mate. So I'm really pleased you like that. You know, for me, the only thing I add in terms of feedback, apart from like, you know, a good polished mix and everything else, is make the payoff pay off. And you know, you were talking about with George's track about having that hi-hat that really pushes at the end. Yeah. It needs one there just to make it go, oh, we're into another gear. We've hit another gear in the gearbox.
That's all, just a little bit more on that, a little bit more oomph on the kind of half or the hi-hats. That's all. I mean, I did think exactly the same thing that you thought. I was like, thinking of the production and the whole kind of journey as a whole, that kind of like weird kind of brush snare thing, it kind of works in this delicate kind of like beautiful melodic kind of techno, the real melodic techno, not the gaff that you hear in Kilobus and all that.
No,
this
absolutely.
Is like the real, this is the real deal.
Oh, the real deal.
And, it's minutiae though. A little bit of lift would be better after the payoff, as
100%. And now Rafa's getting pelters off everybody in the comments, like, get it finished, get it done. And he's also like, this is the most lovely thing about Rafa before we move on, is that he has absolutely no concept of how good he is. So
a lot of artists are like that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what we're here for. We got to lift them up, mate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we got to
stay in the bedroom.
We got to blow smoke, haven't we? Do you know what I mean? Like, there's a certain degree of that. Wonderful. Yeah. Okay, so next
I was embarrassing last night with Yammine. I was embarrassing like a fanboy.
Really? Why? Oh, really? I love that. I was like that with Guy Barone. I was like that with him. I was like, oh my God, like, you know, what a guy. You know, literally. Right, next we got Christian Hidalgo. Here we go, Indigo. Here we go, Indigo.
All right, then, let's go.
Right, best fade that out before I start getting lost in audio engineering heaven.
I'm floating away here with this one.
Yeah,
what a journey.
beautiful, mate.
Absolutely gorgeous. That's sounding super pro to me. Very, 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 very confident track. In that similar kind of like 120, 122 BPM groove zone, which is just perfect for me for this kind of track. But yeah, those hats were beautiful, the way he layered them in the beginning, and then they kept coming up and up. Everything was building perfectly. It was a really masterful kind of build, in my opinion, and didn't need any kind of cuts. I think you don't have to do like drops or fills if it's not needed. This was like, it caught you from the beginning and it didn't let you go, really, which really kind of like prepared you for that beautiful drop as well.
Absolutely.
And without all the key change and everything, and then yeah, it was just great. That delayed stab that came in after the drop finished. I'm really in love with this track. I think this is probably up the top for me for this stream. Absolutely impressed with this one.
Yeah,
technically,
beautiful.
what were you thinking? I saw you were fiddling about with Soothe. Was that because of the high end?
Yes, yeah. So for me, the high end, there was two things. The high end was ever so slightly bothering me, and it was just
Really?
it was just slightly like too high for me. And it was kind of robbing. There's two things that robbed the track for me: a little bit of warmth from a technical perspective. One is that high end. So if I bring Soothe back up, you'll see like I was kind of focusing and concentrating on that like sort of 6 to 12k range. And when I did the Delta, which is you can hear what you're taking out, there was a lot of that real like fizzy high end
hear it coming out.
Yeah, and then when I put the Soothe on just with these sort of basic settings, you felt the hi-hats sort of glue themselves to the track a little bit more, and they were still there and they were still present and they were still contributing, but the whole thing just felt a little bit more like integrated, you know what I mean? It felt a lot more balanced. That was one aspect that I was kind of playing around with. So, there's absolutely nothing wrong, like during the mastering process, for example, if you are mastering your own stuff, to actually put a little bit of Soothe on with the right kind of settings to
It's a great plugin. I love this plugin.
It's phenomenal. Like, it's absolutely amazing. I love these new generation of like dynamic EQs, if you will. Like Soothe.
Track spacer in the bin. Just use Soothe too.
Track spacer.
Before it was track spacer, now it's this.
Yeah, track spacer. This Pro Q4 is really good for this type of thing now as well. It does a lot of that dynamic.
Filter to the max.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's one detail, and then the other one is my favorite pet subject, which is mono compatibility in the bass. I mean, wide, very wide. And Nicholas Van Orton was in the comments because he's still here, giving his 2 pennies worth, or his 2 pesos worth, as we would say in this part of the world. And he was saying like the kick is absolutely fantastic, but the kick was very wide. So the other thing that I've got here is that I've got BX Control by Brainworks, and what I do is I have a mono maker. And you pop this mono maker on, and everything from 300 down, like I was talking about, was in mono. So when I popped that on earlier, you just felt the kick go woof, and it became even better, even more focused, because the low end is solid. So the rest of the track, like you were saying before about, Danny's riff, that didn't change, everything else moved around it. You've got that solid foundation in the low end, and then the track can do whatever it wants from there. So for me, the big thing that I loved about this more than anything, and I've got nothing but praise for the rest of this, the storytelling is absolutely on point. Like,
second to none.
We finished somewhere else from where we began, and that is exactly what you want in a track in this type of genre.
Just the ear candy was in the right place, nothing was getting boring, it was just like there were enough elements happening and the right elements happening at the right time just to keep you in the track. So yeah, I was completely engrossed in that, and that's the kind of track I like, where I just get completely lost in it.
Oh yeah, beautiful, mate, beautiful. It's what I like about you, Lars. You're very, as our next artist would say, you're very genre fluid.
Genre fluid? I was going to call the show that. That's actually a great name for the show.
There you go. Here we go. Yeah. Kick Dr. Duncan, mate. I think you're probably entitled. You're probably entitled to 10%. No, but there you go. Anyway,
it's a funny play on words. I like it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, the funny one is the track that we're going to play next from the Kick Doctor himself, which I think is also
Get to Funk. I saw this.
Get to
this
Funk.
was in my. I saw this in my Beat the Buzz list as well. I never got a chance to play it, so I'm glad I'm having to listen to it now. It's great. That's cool.
Good. Yeah, we discovered this guy on the Guy Barone stream a couple of months ago, and now he's become a member. He's come into the fold, like the prodigal son has returned. You know,
welcome,
we're
lad.
We're all just recruiting for cults, really. Yeah, that's all we're about. Do you know what I mean? So you know, it is what it is. So yeah, let's have a little listen to Get to Funk.
Get to Funk, version 2 and all this. Let's go, big man.
Let's go.
lose ourselves in ecstasy.
Well, that was your kick doctor with his prescription of Getsy Funk.
He must be Scottish the way he spelled two. It's 10 Scottish.
Yeah, yeah.
Getsy Funk, you wee, whatever.
Yeah,
But
you're a wee shit.
You're a wee shite. It's not shit, it's shite.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah, what do you think, mate?
A lot to unpack on this one. Yeah, it's just I love a lot of the sounds in this, a lot of elements. I just feel that sometimes there's one too many in certain parts. Also, you come fucking running out that gate with all guns blazing. You know, string fucking comes in, the arp comes in, then that brass tuba thing comes in. It's all happening within 30 seconds. You don't want to give away all your cards too quickly. I think we talked about this before. And I just think there's a few things, a few gaffes in the arrangement. I think when the ARP could go out, when the vocal, I mean, when you have a good, strong vocal, whatever, like you have here, you need to kind of push everything out and keep the vocal center stage. So there was things happening, building their way into the arrangement when you really should be just the vocal and a bass line or whatever, or an ARP. It needs to be a little bit higher in the mix as well, so a little bit thin sounding too. I think Little Altar Boy is a good plugin I use for thickening vocals and doing harmonizing and stuff. Is that Sound Toys as well? I think it is.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Yeah, it's a great vocal tool. That's good for beefing up vocals as well. I just think, yeah, that big bass is better when it comes in on its own, you know. That's a great, I mean, there's lots of great sounds in here. It just sounds a little bit muddled for me. Also, someone said in the chat, yeah, a good mix and master would sort this track out. That's another point which I completely agree with. But yeah, just a little bit condensed in parts for me. And that tuba sound, I don't know, I'm another one on the fence about tubas, you know. I think it was 10 walls that killed 10 walls killed tubas for me, really. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just a thing, but I just yeah. I'm a big fan of brass raps. I like that. Wow, I like the kind of techno usage of these kind of like brassy kind of like fills and splats. But when it comes to the old tuba sound, I don't know. I just think, yeah, maybe try some other sounds or something, another softer kind of lead or something that still opens up slowly. But yeah, that was what I took from that. All right.
So I think that the big takeaway from this is like I'm expecting now a Wonderground article that says "Funk the Void. I'm on the fence about tubas." And if it's to be taken out of context and tuba players worldwide taking great offence and asking for your cancellation.
Muted trumpet. Remember muted trumpet was in every fucking New York house track for like fucking 10 years.
Yeah.
Every Masters at Work track. I'm not a fan of muted trumpet either. I love brass, but tubas, you know what I mean?
Just go full brass or go home, basically.
Yeah, exactly. I've got a full card. I've got a card here with all just brass sounds in it. Don't get me wrong, I love brass.
Yeah.
Brass is great. I just think that kind of for this kind of track, does it work for this as a lead? You know, I'm just thinking in my head. I don't know.
Yeah,
throwing ideas out there. Like,
no, absolutely. Yeah. So the thing I'd say about like working with Duncan, his name is, over the last couple of months, is that
that's a Scottish name.
It is. He's not Scottish, believe it or not.
Are you kidding me?
No.
What's he on about, man?
What's he on about? So anyway, he's a diamond in the rough. He's only been producing for a year.
Oh, wow. That's great. If he's only producing for a year, that's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. So the fact that, you know, it's this kind of like more nuanced feedback about sound choices and stuff like that at his level, where he's at
I take it all back. That's brilliant. Well done, Duncan. That's great. You should have heard my shit after 1 year. It was awful.
Oh, mate, yeah.
Nothing better than me.
Mate, it took me 3.5 years after finishing audio school to be able to finish a track. Do you know what I mean? So he's way ahead of me as well, mate. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, for me, I think it's a general development, if you know what I mean, in terms of like, you know, he's definitely got the groove down. So I think, once you get to kind of this level, where the next breakthrough to the next level is all about sound choice. And it's about like maintaining what you do really, really well, and then just picking better sounds that evoke that a little bit better. So it's like you were saying before, like that brass sound might need a different lead to it, or one of the things I've been working on with Duncan is like there's like a level discrepancy between what happens in the breakdown and what happens in the drops. Sometimes the breakdowns are overly quiet, and then the drops come in and it's like, oh, it's almost like incongruously loud, if you know what I mean.
Right.
Like that kind of thing. So I've been working with him on the technicals on that point, and I've already helped him with a mix down for one track. So like everything that we're talking about here, he's working on. In terms of like improving his sound choices. He's massively aware of it. And, he's also like, again, like he is the pioneer of the term genre fluid, but he's also at the same time
I came up with that too.
Yeah, there you go. Parallel thinking. It's you Scottish people and apparently faux Scottish people who have all got the same thoughts at the same time. So basically, yeah, he's working on the whole thing, and I totally agree with all the feedback that you've given him. In terms of that.
Nice one. No, it's lovely. Great elements. I love the sound, especially that little synth in the second breakdown. That was gorgeous. Like Novation kind of bass line sound. Just a little bit muddled in the arrangement. That's on a couple of like gaps, when it comes to like vocals and when the vocals come in, it's got to be everything out of the way, make room for the vocal, because that really, when you got a strong vocal like that, it needs to be, center stage.
No, absolutely, yeah. And I think the big thing to take away as well is like, don't play all your cards at once, because it leaves you in the middle of the track with nowhere else to go, and then it starts getting a bit samey. Do you know what I mean?
He was very frisky from the get-go.
Oh, yes.
Very frisky, like boom, 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 let's go.
Well, but he's like that in real life as well, to be honest with you. And I also can confirm in the comments that he is indeed half Scottish. So
there you go, big man. Nice one.
Yeah, your spidey senses were on point there, Fug.
Oh, that spelling, for sure it must be.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Duncan.
Right, so we're going to go from Get T Funk, which is GTF, to Gifu. So we're doing fucked, increasingly, from Get T Funk to just get fucked, basically.
To actually get fucked.
You can actually get all the way fucked. I'm doing increasingly tenuous links, so I'm just going to shut up and play the track. So here we go.
Go, go, go.
That was rather delightful, wasn't it?
Beautiful stuff. Gorgeous. Yeah, very well put together that. Yeah, I mean that back I was sold from that lovely background pad line that came in from the start. Gorgeous, you know, that kind of sound gives me goosebumps. I love that that's the ear candy string sound that I love. Super lush vibes with this one, and that glitchy groove. Now with this glitchy kind of percussive groove, it was working in the beginning and at the end. I don't know. Then the 16th hats came in, and then that glitchy groove kept going. I was thinking, would it be good to kind of just get rid of the glitchy groove parts and keep that for little fills at the end of 16 or 32 bars and have that straight 16th kind of groove, kind of like, so that glitchy groove juxtaposes your 16th hat straight kind of club groove. Because I noticed when they took it out, it did sound kind of a bit more focused, you know. I'm a big fan of kind of like heavily swing, quantized kind of glitchy grooves, but for this track, it's such a smooth, lush track. It might be kind of cool to bookend the arrangement with that kind of like glitchy preamble and then takeaway at the end. But for me, yeah, just a beautiful, melancholic vibe all the way through. And this is the kind of like, I don't know, what kind of music is this? It's just not this gorgeous fucking headphone house to me.
Headphone house. I love that. The next week, the new genre on Beatport, headphone house.
Isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I totally agree with you. And this is where the creative / arrangement taste thing also merges with solving a mix problem. So I completely agree with you about the glitchy groove, because I was really enjoying it in the beginning. It was like giving me like vibes of like, you know, Eamon Tobin or like, you know, Acufan back in the day. But like a little bit more of like a natural version of that. And once the track got going, I was like you, I was like, that's carried on there. And for me, there was one or two choices that you could make there. And one was to actually really significantly reduce the volume of it. Or, as you said in your case, is to actually take it out completely. And this is a great thing to talk about arrangement-wise, which is actually you can make an event out of something arriving, but you can also make an event out of something leaving. And sometimes you can dovetail the two, and you can basically like have a, you know, almost like a kind of a foreshadowing or a moment where it builds up to when the drop's going to come in, and then the 16th hats come in, and then all of a sudden it's like a little bit of a fill or a little bit of a moment, and you're basically transitioning into, now this is going to take over. You know, I mean, I understand like how it is sometimes when you've got these really lovely, gorgeously like intricately constructed glitchy grooves. Sometimes it's actually quite hard to let go of your baby.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean?
It is hard to know what to take out, and sometimes you fall in love with a lot of your parts.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, you know, hard to let them go in the arrangement. But sometimes it just takes a little bit of being and saying, oh, what if I delete that part?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I'm a big fan of those 16th closed 808 hats. I use them probably too much in a lot of my productions, but I always think, you don't want to kind of mess that kind of, almost like kind of Guy J kind of like straight groove, you know, that kind of like, and that was working. But I think we were on the same page when we said, why not either turn it down or take it out a bit more? Because I did notice when it was gone. And they did take it out at some point. I was like, it sounds a bit better when it's not there, when it's got some other stuff going on.
The lushness of the track and the atmospherics
really
come forward, and the vocals and everything, because you haven't got that slightly sort of spiky edge to kind of get past the glitches. You get into the smoothness, so you've got that, you know, nice and interesting and textured in the beginning, smooth after the drop. And the exact word you used was going to be the exact word I was going to use, which is bookend. You bookend.
Bookend. I love bookends.
No, I do. Yeah. I've
got the track.
Yeah, I've got a couple of friends who are good bookends. But
is that rhyming slang?
Well, you can read into that whatever you will, my friend. So basically, you know, in terms of that, it solves a mix problem, because then all of a sudden you've got a lot more space. So it means then dynamically you've got more dynamic range. The sounds can breathe a bit more. You can probably even go up another leg loudness wise. And this stuff is very reminiscent of, like, you know, Rafa was in the comments, Cosmos Orchestra, saying like very reminiscent of something like an Anjuna Deep. You know, that kind of element. You know, I'm very reminiscent of another very good friend of mine who's hopefully going to come on and do one of these streams soon.
Jody.
No, well, Jodie, yeah, I don't know Jodie, but Jodie's amazing. Tim Green. Tim's
Tim Green, nice.
Yeah. Tim's a very, very dear, very, very close friend of mine, and he's done stuff for us before.
Alumni. He's one of the Balance posse, isn't he?
He is.
CD as well.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And he's embarking on some really interesting adventures at the moment. More on that soon. He's just built one of the most beautiful studios I've ever seen in his house in London. Like, I can't wait to get back to England. I'm going back to England for a bit in May. I can't wait to go, and I'm going to go down there and spend a couple of days in the studio and,
nice. Get some pot noodles for me and drop them off to Barcelona on the way home.
Oh, will do, mate. Yeah, absolutely. I'll make sure me connecting flights in Barcelona so I can drop them off for you. Do you know what I mean?
Go and hang out.
Yeah, exactly. No, why not, mate? Why not? In fact, I will get the Sky Scanner up as soon as I finish this session to get it sorted. Exactly, mate. Exactly. But no, this is absolutely beautiful. And again, I think also as well, it's about confidence. It's having the confidence to say, I really like this element, but actually, I'm going to take it out to make other things shine. And I think that's a really big lesson. I really do. So
good
yeah,
job.
wonderful.
Very
But
good.
technically beautiful. Technically really on point. Really on point. Excellent. So we've got 2 to go. Next one is hyperbolic function, which is a hell of a name. So here we go.
Just rolls off the tongue, that.
Oh, it does, yes, perfect. Yeah. a bit of a beauty, isn't it?
Very nice. Gorgeous. I'm a big fan of that kind of like, you know, the angelic voice pad. You know, I'm working on those kind of sounds for the Roland Cloud at the moment with the G800. And I'm loving those kind of old school kind of oohs and ahs and like coming up with angel kind of pad sounds. I mean, it's basically a joy to work with my favorite keyboard for the last 30 years. So I've been chained to that keyboard since I bought it, like the JD800, the Roland JD800. So when they asked me to do a patch bank, I was like, no problem.
Oh,
so,
why not?
Yeah, but yeah, that was great. I love when you just get a nice swing with the groove when you're just changing the velocities and that kind of like synth kind of part. So
No,
you get
absolutely.
that, the groove was already moving for me. And basically, the stereo clap's always a good one as well. That just fucking really kind of works. I was going to say the kind of the arps halfway through the track, they need to be turned down by like -2 dB or something. I just thought they were too loud, and looking at the waveform, you can see what I'm talking about. Too much in your face, too bright, too brash. I definitely just need to turn down a couple of dB or maybe even 3 dB. But I love the arps, and I love the little trick of the one note, breaking up that bass line by just doing a one note kind of phrase. I actually would have finished off with a one note thing, you know, but it works. It's a gorgeous melody, and when you have a gorgeous melody, you can listen to it all bloody day.
You absolutely can. You absolutely can. And, you know, Lee's one of ours on MYT, and he's another one who's been like developing for a while, and he's now starting to get a bit of attention from the likes of Christoph.
Nice.
Because obviously it's kind of like a lot of his other this is actually like a lovely little floaty kind of like euphonic thing that he does, and the other stuff that Lee makes is a lot more like in that Christoph sort of Eric Prydz type sort of area, you know, very upfront, like blaring that line between like progressive and techno, but like very dance floor friendly. And one of the things he's really starting to work on, I actually worked with Lee earlier on today. I mixed one of his tracks down. And you know, he basically was on the other side of the Zoom like you, and was like, basically he's really now starting to knuckle down on like learning mixdown, because that's the big thing that's kind of like holding his tracks back from going to like the really, really top level is getting his mixes right. And you know, one of the things I really admire about Lee is that he throws the fucking kitchen sink. Do you know what I mean? Like when it goes to the builds and the drops, like there's absolutely no quarter asked for or given. He goes for it. Do you know what I mean? And it's often easier to kind of rein something back a little bit from like it being a little bit overblown and a bit like sort of overdone, overcooked, to back it into a sweet spot rather than trying and push something that's deficient into that space. Do you know what I mean? So he's learning that at the moment, because like some of the tracks that he's made, when they do the big builds and drops, they get a little bit over intense and they get a little bit harsh. So he's learning to back away on that a little bit. And this is actually a really good example of that, where he's on the way towards getting the balance right. So it's something you're absolutely right about in terms of like, you know, at certain points of the track, some of the synths have got to come down a little bit in order to give you that dynamic range, to give you that headroom and runway to then do the build. And then you don't have to build it up as much and have everything like sort of screaming in your face so much.
Yeah,
you can kind of
extra
come at it
points for
from
the
the
gated white noise. You know, I love the little kind of different take on just using white noise. But yeah, I mean, I've done that in a few of my tracks. So yeah, top marks. He's doing very well in MYT. Then if he's an MYT alumni,
he is, mate. He's doing very, very well. And you know, we're hoping that it's going to get to the point where Christoph's going to eventually sign some of his stuff. You know, and that'll be another sort of, you know, notch on the belt for us in terms of like the labels that we've managed to get people signed to. You know, we've literally got people signed from everything from Afterlife to Dynamic, Running Back, you know, all these incredible labels. And you know, the amount of success that we've had with our approach over the last 5.5 years of like launching artists' careers and helping them go to another level has been absolutely fantastic. And Lee, you know, a couple you've heard tonight, like, you know, Cosmos Orchestra, etc. They're all
Yeah, I
just
love that Cosmos track.
they're just bubbling under the surface, and they're going to blow sooner or later. So, yeah, it's an exciting time. It's an exciting time
Getting
indeed.
past the finish line, innit? Getting them past the finish line.
It is, and like I liken it to, you know, another good Scotsman like Andy Murray. Like Andy Murray failed in about 4 or 5 Grand Slam finals, and then he figured out how to win, and then he won 5 or 6 of them. Do you know what I mean? It's like you need to know what it looks like and feels like in order to get them over the line. I was the
he
same.
from Edinburgh? Where was he from?
Dunblane, believe it or not.
Dunblane, oh Christ.
Yeah. Well, he actually survived that. Believe it or not.
Was he one of the kids
He
that
was
survived?
one of the kids who survived at Andy
Bloody
Murray.
hell.
Yeah, crazy.
That's insane.
Absolutely crazy. So yeah, I always liken it to like an Andy Murray, or, you know, someone who's like, you know, fallen at the final hurdle a few times. I mean, for me, I mentioned before, it took me 3.5 years after going to audio school to finish a track properly. And then once I'd finished one, and it's like, okay, that's what finished looks like to me. The next one took 24 hours, and then I was off to the races, and, you know, they just come pouring out of me after that. So it's these little kind of like lines that you've got to cross for yourself that then gets you into that momentum, you know what I mean? And that's kind of what we specialise in with people. Because I love the fact that you do Beat the Buzz every week. And there's like, you know, you've got a crew of people who are coming back and bringing tracks
it's like
back.
Here,
and,
I guess you've got your crew here, haven't you? Your MYT crew.
Yeah,
and
absolutely,
I'm doing a show with John Selway as well.
No.
We're doing a kind of twin feedback thing.
Oh, mate, I love
the Americans.
Those two.
Yeah, I love John Selway. He's great.
Oh, my God. Yeah. I mean, obviously, you know, Smith and Selway. I mean, what can you say?
Classic combo, isn't it?
Classic combo, mate. It's like salt and vinegar.
He's got an MYT vibe. He's doing 313 labs over there. He's doing very similar things to what you're doing.
True. Yeah, I should reach out to John and see whether or not there's a collaboration, because he seems like a top guy, actually.
Let's get all the cults together.
Why not, mate? Why not? And just make one super cult. Right, last
Beat
one.
The Buzz, 313. Right, last one. Let's go.
Exactly. Make your transition to Beat Your Buzz at 313. Exactly. Yeah, you know. Right. Okay. So, before we play the final track, I'm just gonna have to show this is really funny. Sasha's just put this up on Instagram, and I'm howling. Look at that.
Oh,
that's
look
like
at that, dude. All that's missing is a leather black bomber jacket.
Look at the barnet on that.
That's
absolutely
90s.
Amazing, mate. Hacienda vibes, mate. 94, I believe.
94.
Yes.
I knew it was right.
Unbelievable. First try. So, yeah, hello to the big man. Looking forward to seeing you on Tuesday with Mr. Digweed over here. Right, so let's play the last track called Let Go. And as we let go of the stream, excellent. Here we go.
Nice.
We don't belong together. You deserve so much better. No, this won't last forever. Time to let go, I will let you down.
I would say, Old Bean, that there is a little bit to unpack there, wouldn't you?
You love that. I mean, I was lost in me kind of Italo vibes there.
Yeah.
Obviously it's a little bit rough around the edges, but the core bass line is kind of holding it together. Obviously there's a few minor stumbles in the arrangement, but I just love the simplicity of the groove. It's just like, obviously it's kind of roughly mixed, but I like the fact that there's not too much going on. That's the main thing. And I like the fact that the vocal has got room to be center stage. So this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
When that vocalist was working, it was a kind of weird fifth harmony or whatever, and then they dropped it down an octave in the breakdown. But I kind of got this weird. I like it when a track kind of transports you to another place. I was getting a kind of weird. I don't know. I was in an Italo mode. I was like, this is a kind of track I would play. Obviously, it was mastered and mixed and a bit arranged better, but there's some sounds in there that I really enjoyed. The harmonies worked for me. I also like, but it got a bit stumbly in the middle with this. The breakdown is a little bit kind of stop-starty. And it was a brave move using that string, that sustained string when it came back in. I think it kind of worked. It just needed to be brought down a little bit and maybe modulated a bit more because it was a bit kind of in your face. But I definitely would have lost that 909 kind of snare roll stuff.
Yeah.
All that kind of like hackneyed kind of like drum roll stuff. It's kind of like, I mean, I did it in the 90s, I probably invented it. But the thing is now it's kind of like, yeah, it just felt out of place there, and it just felt a bit out of time as well. I just don't think it's necessary. I like it when it was just dropped down to the vocal itself, and then you whack it back in. A lot of these kind of busy fills and snare fills aren't really needed. They're like donkey fills, you don't really. Sometimes they work better when you just have a cut like to a vocal and straight back into the groove.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think it's original. It sounds kind of original and kind of rough around the edges, and I'm all about the underdog. And this is kind of like, yeah, I'm a fan of this. I just love the simplicity and the rawness of it. So I'm giving it a thumbs up.
Yeah, I think there's loads of potential, and I think again this is another one of those nice things where the technical and the art and the science meet. Essentially,
yes,
and I totally agree with you in terms like the breakdown. It didn't quite work for me. It's a bit choppy. It's a bit stop-start. I would like keep the groove going and try and build it around that groove because it's very infectious. The two main things for me: kick and bass. It's very, very light on its face.
It's got that Paranoid London kind of sheen to it. They're the same. Yeah, that kind of rough and ready. But yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit light on its feet. It needs more low end. It needs more sub and more, beef in the low end, shall we say. So for me, like the kick was very light. It felt like it was, you could at least, transpose it down by a couple of semitones or find a kick that works in the track that's a little bit bigger, a little bit more, got a bit more thump to it, a bit more sort of like, 55 hertz. That kind of area, and like have it really like be like the real like kick in the chest that like keeps the track really going. And then you could add a sub layer underneath that really lovely sort of like cycle and Italo RP bass line in order to like again like glue the whole thing together, and then the whole thing's pumping.
That would totally make a difference.
Breathing. And then everything else can, again, you can build it around that, and then there's less need then to do like such a, like you were saying, like there's less need for the hackneyed stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like the
yeah,
snare
yeah.
rolls and stuff, because you're
It's
not
not unnecessary.
yeah, you're not overcompensating for the fact that there's deficiencies elsewhere. Normally, that's what happens when you hear stuff like that in tracks like this. It's like, I'm going to put this stuff in to try and make
Yeah.
it seem fuller and more interesting, but I'm not addressing the actual like root causes of why the track's sounding a bit like insubstantial, if you know what I mean. And
Yeah.
that's an understandable
it's
thing. We've
punky
all done
enough.
it, you know.
It's got a punky feel to it. I kind of like, you know, it doesn't need any of these kind of standard snare roll stuff.
Yeah.
I just kind of like the roughness. But yeah, as you said, imagine having that extra weight in the kick.
Yeah.
I mean, in a club with these kind of like dialed back, kind of like this, the amount of sounds in this would really come up in a club if it was properly like
It's
mixed
true.
properly.
True. I'd say really good reference point production wise would be somebody like Ewan Pearson for this.
Yeah, he's a great producer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, like his God, obviously he's done a ton of remixes
He was
over
on
the years,
Soma,
hasn't
wasn't
he?
he? He was one of my Soma label mates.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
true. Yeah, it's true. And like, I was a big fan. He did a oh God, who was it? Ladytron Evil. His remix of that
Right.
was
Nice.
wow.
These are timeless remixes he's done. Yeah, I mean, World of Apples as well was another. He used to do kind of downbeat stuff. Yeah, he's very, very accomplished producer, man.
Yeah,
Good-
very
good
much
guy,
so.
Very
Very
bright.
much so. So yeah, hopefully the feedback helps. And yeah, mate, what a session! What
That
a
was great. I
session!
loved it.
Good today. Good today.
Fucking great. Loved it. Sorry.
Yeah, he had to, didn't he? He had
I had to do it.
No,
I had
of
to
course
do
you
it.
did. Of
Sorry.
course you did. No, it's all right. It's all right.
Cringe.
No,
Cringe.
no, it's fine. It's fine. It's one of those. It's
Weird.
like, you know, I
I had to press the
likened
button.
exactly,
I've
mate.
got a button. I need to press it. It's
Exactly,
OCD.
exactly. Because you live in Wales, you live in Prestatyn. So I always likened your stream and my stream to like game shows, if you know what I mean. So
I mean,
you're
yeah, I'm missing my fart
yeah,
button, to be
yeah,
honest.
exactly,
I
exactly.
don't
Yeah,
have a soundboard with
Yeah.
me. It's weird. I usually give myself a round of applause, but
yeah. Yours was more like, I don't know, like Keith Chegwin on a Saturday morning. And mine's a bit more like University Challenge, if you know what I mean.
yes,
So,
exactly.
yeah, it's a little bit
I'm
more
a bit
erudite.
harmless fun.
Oh,
Bit of
exactly.
harmless fun.
And I've got to thank you for that, actually, because like doing your stream the other week was such a laugh that it's like,
We'll do it again soon.
oh, mate, we'll do it, mate. We'll do them on the reg. And honestly, like, you know, it's encouraged me to kind of like, I mean, that's why I did the stupid thing with the AI videos, you know, with turning you into a samurai and turning me into
that's funny, that's great.
a cross between Elijah Wood in Lord of the Rings and Dante from Devil May Cry.
It's mad how they can get it wrong sometimes, isn't it?
It is, but in the way, in the wrongness of it, it's so right at the same time.
At least
Do
they
you know
didn't have like 12 fingers.
well, true. I mean, I haven't checked, to be honest with you. I mean,
Alright.
at the end of that video, and me doing the Devil May Cry, I think my left hand was actually like sticking out of my right arm. But you know, it
Is
is
that
what it is.
Midjourney that did that? How did you do those?
No, it's
graphics?
called Pika. Pika.
Pika, I don't know.
Yeah,
There's
and
so
it's like
many
it's
of
got
them now,
it's got a mode on it. It's like basically like Epic Me or like Hero Me, and it just does a whole thing.
Does a lot
So
of stuff.
I've done a whole litany of them. So basically, anyone who comes on one of these feedback streams from now on is basically going to get turned into some form of superhero or some sort of pop
Fantastic.
cultural
Do
reference.
you
So
mind if
why
I
not?
use that video for mine as well?
Oh, mate, do it, mate. Do it. I've sent it to you. I'll send you the high quality version so you've got it, mate. So you can do whatever you want, mate. So, but no, thanks for this, mate. It's been obviously a long time coming, doing both of the streams and stuff.
Yeah.
It's just been an absolute pleasure, just like hanging with you and catching up and, you know, talking about music. Like we'd be doing this over beers. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And,
it's a bit of a laugh, isn't it?
Exactly.
It's good fun. It's just
It's
like
a-
mates chatting. And I love listening
Exactly.
to people's music, and it's like breathing to me. So.
Nah, same, mate. Absolutely the same. So, yeah, absolutely wonderful. So, yeah, thanks everyone for watching. A fantastic stream. We're back next month. Next month, we're doing something very, very different, or a little bit different. We've got a feedback session, but we're doing it with a record label. So, it's going to be an A&R session for an incredible progressive house label called Night Colours, which has been really, really building. It's my friend Chris. He's another MYT graduate from back in the day, and he's doing amazing things. So we're basically doing a session where if the feedback is good enough, you never know, you might get signed. That's the whole idea. So we're doing this with a few record labels before the end of the year, and, you know, just not making it, you know, two old farts talking about techno all the time. So, you know,
Ultra old.
mate, I
Old,
qualify.
old but gold.
I
Old
qu-
but gold.
I qualify, mate. I'm turning 45 on Saturday, so, you know,
Oh yeah? Wait till you
Yeah.
reach my age.
Oh, mate.
Oh
no.
my god.
But that's why we need you, mate, because we need people of a particular vintage to carry this
Yeah.
on. Do you know what I
I
mean?
think I've got 1 year left of being kind of like semi-retired relevant, and then it's off to the jungle for me.
Oh yeah. The knackers
I'll be
yard.
doing my streams. Listen, mate, we're all in the scrap heap now, mate.
Oh,
But
mate.
it's like, I like to pass the torch. We don't have a seat in the stage anymore, but we're sitting in the stalls.
No, mate. No, we got hooked years ago, didn't we? We got the cane, like we got yanked.
Yeah, we're like boomers. Is it like techno boomers?
Yeah,
I'm a techno boomer now.
Exactly, mate. Exactly. Well, thanks very much,
next.
Lars. Really appreciate it, mate. And I'll see you soon. Yeah.
All right, bye. Take
Nice
care,
one.
buddy.
Take it easy. Bye.